Hello, fellow human. Foggy Mama here. This is a behind the scenes video of the process of painting Jeepy. For this project, we used all folk art MAC acrylic paints, various cheap brushes from Michaels, detail brushes, paper towels, painter's tape, and water. I started off with black and painting all of Jeepy's treads. I started with the treads because I was so incredibly nervous that I was going to ruin Jeepy. This is like the third time I've ever painted a clay figure, so I started off really slow. Then I moved on to Jeepy's body. Now we very carefully picked out the color that we wanted for Jeepy's body. We knew that we didn't want him to be like a typical robot color of either gray or silver. And we have this blue like sticky tack tape that we're using for his joints so that he can move. So we ended up with this, very light mix of white and blue as our base coat. And we did this base coat, basically over all of his body. You see some of those pieces painted there, his arms, his middle section, and everything. I mixed some white and black paint to make this gray for the treads, and I painted all four sides that color. I used the same blue that I used in the base coat and some black to make this darker blue for some of his details, like the frame around his face.
That's a difficult question because I didn't know we were in the information society.
I also painted the piece that holds his antenna, the section between his upper and lower half, his tailpipe, and the pieces that connect to his treads, all the same color. I painted the screens on both sides of Jeepy's chest black, very carefully with the detail brush. And while that dried, I put the first coat on Jeepy's face. I went with a lighter blue-white mix at first because I wanted his face to really stand out. But it was looking a little off to me, like he had like a face cream mask on or something, so I did another coat with a slightly darker blue to cover that up, and I think that turned out much better. Then I mixed some green and yellow to get a kind of neon looking green for the pixels on the little guy's screens. On the one side is a heart, kind of indicating Jeepy likes something, and on the other side is an X, maybe signaling that he dislikes something. I wanted it to kind of look like his tailpipe was glowing, so I mixed some red and orange paint together to paint the inside of Jeepy's tailpipe. Here I'm using a dark gray paint to paint Jeepy's mouth plate. I eventually painted over the mouth with a lighter gray because the dark gray was just a little off to me, but I kept the dark gray for the bolts on his face, all 4 of the bolts. So after I got a base coat on everything, then I did a dark wash over everything. I did the dark wash to give him more depth and to make some of the texture of the sculpture to stand out a little bit more. I used just a little bit of black paint and a lot of water, and I basically covered all his pieces up, and then I used the paper towel to dab off some of the excess paint. And the wash, that stays in the deeper sections, giving him, you know, more depth, making him pop more. I was so nervous about doing his face because at this point I thought his face looked adorable, and I was very worried that the dark wash was going to ruin it. Then I dry brushed all the pieces with an even lighter white-blue mix. So opposite of the wash, which gets all the deeper, darker sections, the dry brushing is supposed to highlight all of the raised sections of the sculpture, giving him even more depth and making some of the fine sculpture details pop more. And I'm honestly really happy with the way it turned out. These were the last little details that I did on Jeepy. I used the painter's tape to line up some stripes on the side of his head. And then I painted an 01 on the side of his head next to the stripes. We knew we wanted to put a number on him, and we went with the 01 because he's the first sculpt that we did on this channel, and he's also the first version of Jeepy. And finally, I painted a little barcode on him on the back of his head. I'm not thrilled with the way the barcode came out. It's probably my least favorite part of him. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching.